Hello, nerds, geeks, and all variants in between. I'm Tony Diane, and this is of Nerds and Geeks, pop culture from a certain point of view. And I hope you'll take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button as it helps with the algorithm. Also, don't forget to visit my online shop where you can get lots of cool swag with artwork done by yours truly. But today, we'll be talking to Eric Blanchette of Fennec Studios. I have to say that right because I want to say Fenric, and I know it's not a wolf, it's a fox, but I'll get to that later. Fennec Studios has a really neat idea about producing comic books, and I hope you'll join us on the journey as we discover how that works. Let's check it out. Give us a little insight into, what was it, the year 2020, when you came up with the idea for Fennec Studio, how you came up with it, and why you chose this, the mascot of the fox. I'm really curious about that one.
Yeah, well, first, the fox. I'll talk about the fox first. The Fennec is an animal that I like. I'm a biologist, In life, I teach science and robotics, and I'm into animals a lot. I've got animals just right there. I've got my desert thing, like he's sleeping there. It's a lizard, and I got a lot other things in the house. And the Fennec always was an animal that struck a chord. It's so beautiful. It's fast. How it lives. It's
absolutely adorable.
Yeah, yes, I would love to have one. In Europe, it's almost legal, but I want to have one here, that's for sure. But it's amazing. And 25 years ago, I saw an image in National Geographic about a Fennec, and my logo is reminiscent of that image. It really is that image made into a design, it was one of the most beautiful images that I've seen in my life, from my point of view, naturally. And that's where the Fennec comes from. And I thought it was, catchy and. And
well, it's also I also like the analogy of the little animal lost in the sea of all these other indie comics and the big three comic companies.
Yes, and if you look at my logo, maybe it will pop up somewhere around my head. You can see that it moves against the wind, and that's something that's important for me. Always, creating, you always feel like you're against the wind. There's always these troubles. It's fun, but it's so hard, and that's why the logo, I didn't want to be depressing as a logo. I wanted to be, fun, but at the same time, there's that kind of moral in it,
Nice. And so you decided to start the comic company. You go with Fennec because you love the animal.
Yeah.
And what was your impetus in going forward? It's like, okay, so I'm going to create a comic company. What am I going to do?
Yeah, actually, I don't see it as a comic company. That's special. It is right now because I will be publishing comics in April, but I want it to be a studio, a creation studio. Mainly, I'm starting with comics because that's what I know best. And but after that, there will be like tabletops. I have ideas about that, so it's not other type of creation. There's some 3D stuff too, maybe educational stuff because I'm a teacher, and I have these ideas about the logo, like fennecstudio.edu education or fennecstudio.board game. Just branches.
Well, yeah, and the other thing I had to mention too, which I think is also cool on the Nerds of Geek, to throw the title of the show in, but on the Nerds of Geek level, you teach robotics.
Yeah.
And video game mapping. That is just cool unto itself, man. Are you kidding me? I mean, robotics are awesome. I've always had an interest in video games. I've only ever designed one video game, and that was horrible. But still, the whole idea behind understanding the mechanics of what goes into a video game, and you teach that. Forget the comics. Okay, I'm not going to forget it, but that's cool.
Yeah, I know. I've before the pandemic, I wanted to put my toes into video games, and I like that, and I teach video game design in my high school, middle school, but I don't know. It's fun. I like teaching it. I like doing things, but as whole project, it's bigger than comics. It's just too big. It's
world building.
It's world building, but it moves. There's interaction. There's so much things. I said to you earlier yesterday when we talked. that I wrote novels, and I thought, when I tell about when I talk to people who does comic, and I say to them, well, I think doing novels is easier. They're going, no, 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 man, I can write novels. It's impossible. I don't mean it's easier, for everybody, but for me, there's a simplicity. I could write on the bus, I could write
Right.
everywhere. It's only words. And if you want to scratch a whole person, I did that. You can erase it from your novel, but you can't do that in a comic. I mean, it's drawn. I mean, it's there. It's more. There's more obstacles in comics. There's more talent necessitated for this. And since I do it myself, there's so much thing going on. But with video game, I think it's even more, complicated. So I liked learning about this, and I still do, and I use what I learned to do my comics and other things. But I kind of decided not to go there.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get to that in a second. But first, I want to talk about your first title. It's called Deep Trouble.
Yeah,
Tell me a little bit about that. What's the story behind that?
yeah. Deep Trouble is a crew, a pirate crew. Okay, the Deep Trouble is the name of the boat, and it's called the Deep Trouble. And the thing is, when you see it, you are in deep trouble. That's the gist of it. And it's in Virginia, in the end of the golden age of piracy. They're pretty much the last ones. They saw the hangings. They saw all the names we know being killed, chased down. They're pretty much the end of it. So they know they've got to stop it, but they don't want to stop because there are suffering people. In my story, I wanted to. Uh, I've done a lot of research for this, and pirates were not good people, okay, but they did that because for some of them there was no other choice. They suffered all their life. The only thing they learned about in their life that they lived through was injustice. Many of them were slaves. So that's the story I want to talk about. Of
Weren't
pirates.
some
Just
weren't some
yeah.
pilots former British Navy officers?
Yes, absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they are. And so it's a ragtag of people from a lot of places, and they live on the sea, but in a place called Leland. It's a town I created. It's in Virginia, and but it is in Virginia in my world. Um, and Leland has a past that we will go to in the second trilogy. Um, and that past has kind of isolated the place. So there's no, the king doesn't know it exists anymore almost, and there's not much things going on. So, the pirates can stay there. They know they're semi-isolated, and the populace, they know that they live because they have pirates helping them. So it's kind of a strange situation. Uh, but when the Navy arrives, because they knew they were there because they were being attacked.
Of course.
Uh, yeah, Deep Trouble starts with a trap that's sprung at the Deep Trouble, and that's the start of the story. And in the first part of the story is five comics, and in the first one, Deep Trouble number one, the only thing you live through is knowing the universe, all the personas, because there are a lot of people, what's happening. But the gist of it is they got made. The Navy crashed them, and everything's going AWOL.
Yeah, I read the 25-page preview that you sent out with your promotion,
Yeah,
and trying to remember the ending. I think it was. Well, I remember the scene in the tavern or bar.
yeah,
That was pretty brutal, I have to say, in a good way.
yeah,
You're not afraid to get a little messy with some of your characters, which I like.
yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's what I wanted to get as an impression. And let me tell you something. It's going to be grittier because you don't see much slavery in that one, but it's going to be there. And it's going to go dark, you know, to appreciate what these guys try to do. Because the thing is, at the start, Captain Freeman, that's the captain, he just tries to build a society on his boat with justice in it.
Right.
And when you read about pirates, about historical things about pirates, you understand that it's pretty much the first place in the world where democracy existed. Like we think about, and it's strange to think about that. We always think they're savages, they're killing everybody, and that's not untrue. But they had these written things about the captain being equal to everybody, except in certain circumstances, and that they could take out the captain. It's not the Navy at all. They had to vote for everything. They even had pension. I mean, can you believe that they had pension?
That's
If you
pretty
got
wild.
armed, you got paid for this. It's crazy. Nobody did that at this time. So the idea is that Captain Freeman does that for his men, and slowly is going to gravitate towards something that you will see the suffering in the city caused by them, because the Navy came and they take the city hostage to because they know they will come back.
They're going to flesh out the
And
pirates. Yeah.
yeah, so he sees the suffering, and he understands for the first time in his life that these people are real people.
Mm.
Like he always thought that the only real people were the deep trouble, and he begins to think that Leland needs saving, and it's worth it. So there's going to be I won't say there's a democracy in there, but the city is going to change, and all these power struggles. But when you said you thought it was grittier, one of my biggest influences as a creator of comics is 100 Bullets. 100 Bullets is by Risso and Eduardo Risso and Azzarello. For me, it's a masterpiece. I read this all the time, and this is so much gritty, and I like that. And I won't say I emulate them, but there's a lot of this in my head when I write Deep Trouble.
That makes sense. So, is the story planned out to just be a sort of a 3 trilogy series?
Yeah, well, right now I've got all the script done for the 5 numbers of the first part of the trilogy. So this is the attack of the Navy, the response of the pirates. Like I say, I don't know if you've seen that thing, but my catchphrase is to live in a fair world, be ready to see it get ugly. So that's the gist of my story. So we'll see it get uglier, and the first part is the pirates will take back what is theirs, but with a lot of changes.
So you say you would you say that aside from creating the fictional city that they occupy, are you saying you're trying to do a more like historically accurate version of pirates around that time, or
Yeah,
taking
that's right.
inspiration from?
Yeah, I don't want to be stuck too much with the historical accuracies, but this is something I really like to do. I do so much research when I write, but I just want to know much more than I need. That's something I learned from Neil Gaiman. I want to learn so much more than I need, and after that, it translates into the work. But I'm taking, I'm taking things, fairly imaginative. There's going to be monsters in it, and there's going to be a little bit of magic, but not too much. But when you talk about the Navy, about how they lived, about the city, it's going to be pretty accurate,
Okay.
about how people think, about what was being a slave in Virginia was like. This is going to be pretty much real and dark, as you can imagine. But I like to paint over it and say, look, this part is real, but this part is made up. So let's get together and believe in this.
Gotcha. My wife is a writer and she likes history too. So but she likes romance novels, so she writes what she calls historical fictions.
Okay.
So that's what it sounds like. It's like a historical fiction. You got some stuff that is accurate. You're not sticking too much to the guidelines, but the condition of society that you're keeping separate and making your own story.
Yeah, that's right. It's like, it's like being in the dark, and you have a flashlight, and you kind of you check what's the environment is, and you say, okay, that's real, that's real, that's real, and suddenly you see a poster of a clown, and you say, whoa, what does this have to do with this? And you believe it's there. So there's this element that surprise, and you kind of, if you take your time to slowly build the reality of it, when you put something that's not real, it becomes believable when you wave it, So that's what I like to do, Really, I got a novel that I wrote. I won't talk about that. It's in French anyway, and it's about the whole of human history. And let me tell you, I haven't read like that in my life. It took me 15 years, and I tried it to be so accurate. There's about 55 or 50, 55 or 60 cultures in it. It's crazy.
Wow.
But at the same time, there's a God that doesn't exist, except they're creatures. And so that's what I like to do, get real, so that when you put make-believe things, well, they look real,
Oh yeah, you hide a lie between two truths.
Yeah, that's right.
Makes it
Yes,
makes it more
you're
realistic.
blending. Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. So now, if it's all right, I'd like to move on to another topic, which I think is honestly it's the reason I reached out to you to do this show in the first place, is the incredible style that this comic book is produced in. I showed my friend who's on a lot of our panels, and he was blown away by the artwork.
Oh, thank you.
So there'll probably be some pictures showing up on screen now, but if you want to
Yes.
explain the process you use, I think everyone would really enjoy that.
Yeah, actually, I was drawing a couple of years ago, and I've drawn a lot, and I stopped drawing. It was a decision. It's strange, but it was a decision. I read a book once that explained to me that if I wanted to make my goals real, I had to slash things off. And you can't slash things off if they're little and if they don't hurt, You have to really, really slash things that you like if you want to have time. So I slashed drawing, as crazy as it looks. And I slashed drawing, particularly, I slashed thinking about making comics. It was too big, too long. It was,
Sure.
it was horrible. I draw, it's long, and it wasn't even colored. And after that, there was it was crazy. And I decided to go to novels because, as I said earlier, I think it's much easier. And I wrote 4 in about 8 years or 7 years. I could have gone out there. I was, going faster and faster. And during the pandemic, I had time on my hand, and I checked back my 3D, my digital stuff. I've always, I've been using Photoshop for 25 years. I do 3D animations. So I was working on a project, another thing completely, because of COVID, I had time. And I realized there was new things, new possibilities, because during 8 years, I only wrote novels. So I was kind of disconnected from all this. But during these years, technology emerged for creators like I didn't think. So Photoshop, went better. There was new things in 3D. Blender, which I used, was now incredibly advanced. So all things, and prices were lowering for buying, places, objects, creatures. So I saw that, and I realized, if I use this, since it's my force, since it's a capability that I have to do 3D, if I use this instead of drawing to make comics, would it work? that's where I began to use 3D to do comics. So mainly what I do is I use Blender. I use a lot of stuff that I buy from Turbo Squid, CG Trader, and Kid Bash. Kid Bash 3D, man, it's incredible. You see this in Spider-Man. You see this in the movies, and Marvel's use them. It's so
Kid Bash is amazing.
yes, it's incredible, and I buy
Their
these
full-on
things.
sets are just mind-blowing.
Yes, and for my Deep Trouble, the city I created with their pirate kit and the medieval something or other. I bought two of them, and I took other things that I already made, and so I use 3D. Uh, I create 3D worlds, and I kind of do comic like I would do a movie. I don't follow the script that much. That's what I like to do. When I wrote novels, I didn't know how it ended. I really didn't. Even though I had written 300 pages, I wasn't sure how it would end. I
Yeah,
like the I like that the actions of the protagonists surprise me. That I don't have any choice to write that, and sometimes the story moves, and I don't know exactly where it's going, and I see it slowly. And Stephen King wrote once about that process, and he likes that too. He doesn't just scan every line
I was just
at
about to say, it's like there's two types of writers: the outliner and the seat of your pants writer, right?
That's right. And I like doing that to be surprised. I know where I'm going, naturally, but I've got so much surprise when I create the story, when I do it. So by doing it as a movie, I create it like if the actors were, I know they're not living, by the way, but I do it.
I hope you
uh,
do.
yeah, not that crazy, but I do it like if they had some kind of carte blanche, like if they could do things to impress me, like you do with good actors, just hey, go with the flow and create speeches. Sometimes the take is not what you thought it would be, but it's better than it would be,
It's true.
so
But
that's how I create.
most writers actually have conversations in their head with their own characters.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
have. I've had conversations like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, it's fascinating for me, and not every writer's work like that. I talked to one that's famous in Quebec City, and I talked to him about this, and he thought I didn't say that I was doing it, but I was talking to him about how he liked that his characters take forms by themselves sometimes, and they take decisions that surprise him, and he just didn't believe that. He said, that's European shit, this doesn't happen. You control everything. These guys are psychics. They don't know what they're talking about. And I was like, okay, I won't go there, but I lived through this, and I like this. Once I got a character that suicided herself, and I didn't see it coming. I really did not. But with everything I wrote, I didn't give her any choice. I didn't see it, and her suicide was emotional. I didn't believe I was going to do this, but I had no any choice, and it was a better story because of that. So that's how I create. So I create the 3D models, or I buy them because it's a bit faster, uh, and then I put a camera, some lights, and everything, and I play. I play with. I've got my thumbnails, my script, but I follow it, like 50-50. When I see camera angles that are so much better, I go with it, and I do 10, 12 shots. I don't have to redraw it at zero.
That's
When the
true.
character is there, that's the force, that's the strength of it.
Now, what about the almost comic book sort of shading effect that you have over these images? Is that a post
Yeah,
processing thing you do in Photoshop?
yeah. When the 3D is done, I import that in Photoshop. Yeah, and I have designed slowly and painfully some kind of in Photoshop you can build how do you
Macros,
call, pardon me?
macros,
Yeah, it's
or
not called
scripts,
macros in there, but
or
it's, yeah,
actions?
actions. That's right, that's
Actions.
right.
That's what I was
you
thinking
know
of.
yeah, so I've created a series of actions 4 or 5 that has 20 or 30 actions in it, and it seems magical, but I had to build it, and it transformed my images as I like, with many layers, and I tweak the layers with what I want to do with that image, you know. So
Gotcha.
that part is lightning, but after that, it's all the tweaking and everything. And after that, I import each of them in another page in Photoshop, and there's the panels, and I do, you know, the panels, and after that, the lettering and the special effects, you know. So that's how I work, and I like that. You know, I said to you yesterday, you know, I don't care if people know it's 3D. I don't want it to show, you know, because I think it's distracting. But I like that because I'm creating a new style for my other story right now. I want it to be cartoonish, you know.
Hmm.
So I like that. You can really tweak. It's not magic, but technology is very incredible for that, you know.
Yeah. So, like, when you're on, it seemed like a subject change, but it's related. So, when you're on Facebook and you're posting stuff, and they say, "Hey, do you want to boost your ad?" Do you ever boost your ad?
Uh, I did once. It didn't work that well, but
Okay.
yes, I understand.
That's the only way I think I found you,
Okay,
because
maybe. Okay,
it showed up on my feed, because I do a lot of comic book stuff in my Facebook feed, so I get a lot of like sponsored ads for comic books. So you would ask before how I found you, and I'm
okay.
thinking you must have boosted an ad or something for it to show up in my feed.
Well, I created an ad that I paid. Actually, which one? It was the 2 girls, is it?
Yeah, so two girls, and then gets a 25-page book free, and
That's right. Yeah, it's not a, it's a whole, it's a whole set that I created. There was 3 that was running. One was a mock-up of Mission Impossible, the last one. It was very great. The other one was more Captain Freeman battling to
okay.
have action, and the other one was the 2 girls. And I wonder why, but that's the only one that worked. You know, girls. You know, I knew it, but I tried with 3, and I just canceled the other 2. Only the 2 girls, they were like 90% effective. You know, it was crazy.
They usually are. Whatever that says about our society or whatever, but they usually are. Well,
They
you know,
are.
the one benefit, and please, viewers, comment in the bottom if you think I'm wrong. Men like to look at women. Women like to look at women. The same isn't necessarily true in reverse.
Yeah, I guess. But anyway, we know it works. So anyway, it was, you know, they were dressed, they're beautiful, they're cool, but it was, you know, in good taste.
Of course.
So yeah, so and I really, it was my best of the 3 images for, yeah, it was anyway. So
Yeah, I'm actually using that one as a backdrop. You'll see when you see the episode. It's actually the backdrop of our conversation. The 2 girls part of the Deep Trouble
yeah,
wooden sign. I
I
like that
hope,
one a lot.
yeah, I hope it's not. I was afraid that it was sending the wrong message because yes, they are 2 girls, but there's only men in deep trouble, you know. But they're going to be in there, yes, because
Yeah.
things happen. But I was wondering, is it bad publicity because I'm using 2 women? They're in there and they're going to take some place, yes, but you know, it's a lot
Well,
of men in
as
that
long as they're in
story.
the story somewhere, I'm sure it'll be okay.
Yeah, and you know,
And
I've
people will
decided,
forget if they read the story and they like it. They'll be, oh yeah, that's right. These girls are supposed to be in it at some point.
yeah. Anyway, they're 2 badasses, so I'm going to use them more than I thought it would because you know they have a mind of their own, so they will do things I don't even think about now.
Absolutely. Um, Now you also mentioned you don't have to talk much about it because I know you're not far along, but you're doing a second concept. You said it's more of a sci-fi-ish thing. Is that right?
Yes, actually, sci-fi is my forte. It's what I read, you know, every day. So it's what I like really,
Hmm.
and history. So I'm creating something. It's hard to explain, you know, because it's not all finished, but it's kind of a multiverse thing. But I don't want to sound like I'm doing like everybody else does, but you know,
Right.
it's not a multiverse. It's almost like that. It's I'm
Well,
gonna
and
find.
another good way to paraphrase it, if you don't want to use multiverse, it's a pan-dimensional story.
Yeah, you can say that, but actually, it's one universe that that it's crumbling upon itself, and it's crumbling
Gotcha.
upon itself by creating other possibilities, and these possibilities can coexist. So they collapse one upon the others, and that's the story. That's the name of the story, the collapse.
Oh, nice. Is
And
it like a probability thing?
yeah, there's a reason why the collapse happens. There's a reason why there's a mysterious disease. Everything is going to be explained, but at the start, it's just crazily diverse. You start in two different worlds with two different persons, very strange worlds where everything is mixed up, but everything will make sense. It's a pretty big story.
That's
You
great.
gotta, yeah, it's you start with the protagonist. It's a girl, and she's uh, she's uh, she's from an old organization that protects the universe, and she wakes up one day because she's antisocial. She doesn't want to be with anybody else except her robots and a couple of things. And she wakes up one day and it's her birthday, and she knows she's gonna have visitors from her asteroids. She lives in space. Well, it's not space, but I'll call that.
Right.
And nobody calls, and she's relieved because she doesn't want to see everybody. But each time, everybody comes because she's famous. And time passes and nobody comes, nobody calls. There's no news from the world. So that's not normal. So she's beginning to be intrigued by why isn't anybody contacting me? And there seems to be nobody left. There's nothing.
Um,
And since it's the only real universal organization, it doesn't make any sense. So she goes to the more nearest world, to check if the antenna is working. There's all the systems, and everything's working, but there's no signal from everybody. So, and that world seems not normal. So she goes there and she stumbles upon a world that's, it's a desert world. It's a half Far West and half Egyptian culture mixed all together with giant dung beetles rolling their brooding balls. And there's the last functioning sentient robot from the old civilization that you can see the remains in the desert. And he takes what the babies and the brooding does to make electricity for himself. It's the only way it lives. So it's a strange world, and she tries to understand. And there's one person in that world that knows about her, and it's not supposed to be. So it's the story. It begins like this, And in the other world, there's somebody that's searching her in a classic American 50s town after war, and it's surrounded by this alien world of bizarre ecology and strange
mhm.
shape. And in the middle, there's this eerie amusement park populated with monsters, and it's really creepy. And they are guarding a damsel in distress. They're protecting her, but it's the only person in that world because the city is empty. So he says, "Well, I think I'm gonna die here, but I'm gonna go have that woman and at least talk to her before I die because I'm alone here." And he's got PTSD because he's been in the wars, and all his wars are getting mixed up in his head, and there's a reason for that. So all of these things are getting together, and there's going to be a lot of things.
So you're saying basically it's a lot different than Deep Trouble.
They are. Yeah, and you know what? Deep Trouble is going to be in there too.
Why not?
Yeah,
Right? Kitchen
it's
snake and all.
yeah, it's
Um,
not. It's more than why not. There's a reason where Deep Trouble is going to be in there.
oh, very good, very smart. Also, too, I want to mention too before we wrap up, you have a Kickstarter starting
Yeah.
for Deep Trouble. Hopefully, it'll be around the same time this airs. Will that start in March? You said, or it's really going to be April?
Oh, it's going to be April. Yeah, maybe at the beginning or the middle of April. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if I time this right, true believers, the links will be down below in the description so you can contribute to this man's genius projects. Before we go to, did you want to talk about the tabletop game thing?
Well, yes, I can. We can take a minute or two with this. Yeah, um, Deep Trouble started as a tabletop actually, and that's why I was searching for 3D objects and design things to design cards. It's a tabletop that's related to. I don't know if you know about this one. It's called. It's a game. What's the name again? Well, that's fun. Oh yeah, Seven Wonders. You know that?
I do not.
Okay, it's called Seven Wonders Duel. So you can play at two when you have to play at two. It's a duel, and it's a card game with a lot of strategy.
Okay.
And Seven Wonders, it's the Seven Wonders of the world. So it's not my project, but it's the same gist of project, but with pirates and the navy and creatures. It's really it's the same story as Deep Trouble, as a tabletop. So in the Kickstarter, there's going to be cards for those that buy the Deep Trouble. There's going to be hardcover, softcover. I'm gonna have
Oh, that's fun.
yeah. I'm gonna have like nylon, not nylon, but how do you call that? Well, kind of special posters, and you're gonna have
Oh, like
you're gonna be able
vinyl
to,
and
yeah,
vinyl and
vinyl.
tin
That's
and
right,
all that.
vinyl. Yeah,
Vinyl.
yeah. So make believe old pirate posters, and you're gonna be able to be on it. And yes, in the Kickstarters, there's gonna be an option when I will draw you in the comic that you can be a person in the comic. I like
Well,
that
that's
very much.
exciting. That's very exciting.
Yeah, I like that. And you're gonna be able to buy a poster with, I don't know, Captain Freeman and or things like that. And you're gonna have two cards for that game. Two cards that are going to up the levels of the game. So if it comes with it, it's free with it. So if you buy, it's gonna be my second Kickstarter, maybe the tabletop. So if you buy the tabletop later, you're gonna have a couple of cards more to begin, playing, and so that's the idea between those two projects.
That is really neat. Very diverse too. I mean, I like how you're going from the tabletop thing to the comic book thing, and you teach robotics and video games to begin with. So you're very well rounded, sir.
Yeah, yeah, it's a blessing, but it's a trap too,
Of course, of
Yeah,
course.
you gotta finish something. You gotta, take that road and go all the way with it, and stop looking at the other wonderful projects that you want to do.
Ooh, shiny. Yeah,
Ooh, shiny.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like Gollum X10.
Exactly. Have you any final thoughts? Any final things you want to say before we wrap it up?
Well, first, I thank you very much for the invitation. It was a great surprise. I really thank you sincerely. And well, to whoever is hearing this right now, Fennec Studio is a shy little creature that is going to explore the desert for a lot of years, and I hope a lot of people follow him in the desert, because the desert is going to be, there's going to be rain, there's going to be things growing out of it.
Who knows? Maybe someday you'll make a comic book about that little Fennec fox.
Yeah, maybe we'll see.
Or maybe he'll end up being the ultimate creator of this entire universe, and he's like a super pan-dimensional hyper smart being. Who knows?
Yeah, with a big head
and big ears.
That's right.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you so much for sharing your creativity and your wonderful ideas. And I'm sure my audience will absolutely adore the idea. And like I said, guys, I'm going to put all the links down below to his studio, to his Kickstarter, and to, well, anything else he wants to share with me.
That's cool.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you. You have a great one.
See you.
All right.
I hope you've enjoyed the interview, and I hope you'll check out Fennec Studios comic book, because they have a lot of things coming down the pike. In the meantime, keep an eye out for trivia from Of Nerds to Geeks and future things, because we'll be covering Free Comic Book Day, a few cons, and a few other things. Be cool.